So here is where a Boolean comes in. And in Scratch, we have 3 key Booleans. We have an OR Boolean, we have an AND Boolean, and we have a NOT Boolean. For this one, I'm actually going to use the OR Boolean. And the reason I'm using an OR Boolean is because a letter, one of the letters of the user word, it cannot be all of the vowels all together. So what I mean by that is that it can't be an A and an E and an I and an O, etc. It can't be all of those things at once. However, it can be one or the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my comparison and I'm going to drop it into one of these OR blocks. Let me just move that just move it up here. There we go. So I've got letter 1 of user word, if that is an A, or I need to check it to see if it's an E, an I, an O, a U, and a Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab another OR block and I'm going to drop it into that space. So right here I've got A, I've got E, I've got I. So I need a couple more. A, E, I, O, U, and I'm going to grab one more. So A will go here, I, A, E, I, O, U, and Y. Now, again, just thinking about my pattern recognition as one of my computational thinking strategies, I'll know that this little block of code right here is going to be the same for all the vowels. So I'm going to right click on this little oval here and say duplicate. Drop one there. I'm going to do it again and duplicate. Drop it there. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I fill up all of the OR spots. There we go. Okay. But now I need to remember to change this. Otherwise, it's just checking for the letter A. So I'm going to say, if I look up here, I'm going to say if letter 1 of user word is A, if it's E, or I, or O, oops, that's a 0, or O, or U, or Y. So I've got all my letters. Letter 1 of user word is an A, or an E, or an I, or an O, or a U, or a Y. Then I'm going to take that entire statement right here and drop it into my if then else block. And I'm just going to delete these so that they're not all in the way there. However, we do have a Boolean. Okay, I'll keep the Boolean. Okay, so far so good. If I run my code, I'm guessing nothing's going to happen because I haven't told it to do anything yet. So if I enter a word, I'll just say apple. Okay, the user word gets updated. I have an apple. Apple is saved as the user word variable, but nothing's happening. I haven't told it what to do yet. So I want to say if the first letter of a user word is a vowel, what do I want to do to it? Well, if I go back to my challenge, first off, it's going to tell me how many vowels there are. So first thing it's going to do is tell me how many vowels. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to display the word either without the vowels or without the consonants. And since I'm starting with vowels, it's probably going to display the word with just vowels. Okay, so I know right here, I need to figure out how many vowels are in the word, and then I need to print out the word with just the vowels. So in order to do this, I need to create a couple more variables. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to create a count variable that counts the number of vowels in a word. So I'm going to click on make variable and I'm going to say vowel count. I'm naming it that because I'll know exactly what it means. It's a vowel count. And right underneath my set user word, I'm going to grab another set block. Remember, the set blocks are in the variables category. And I want to set my vowel count to 0. Because when I start this, there's no vowels counted yet. So I want to leave it at 0. The next thing I need to do, I need to create a variable that's going to store my word with just vowels. So I'm going to create another variable and I'm going to call this vowels only. And I might just say, just to make it even more clear, vowels only word. Hit OK. And then again, I'm going to grab another set block and I'm going to set this variable, so vowels only word. This time, I actually want to leave it blank. And the reason I want to leave it blank is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each letter that I find that's a vowel and I'm going to assign it to this variable, vowels only word. I'm going to just keep assigning all of those vowels to this variable until I have all the vowels from the word in order right there in this variable. Okay, so let me just look at the sequence real quick. When the flag is clicked, it's going to say, welcome. This is the letter program for 4 seconds. It's going to ask, please enter a word, and it's going to wait until I type something in, or until a user types something in. Just move that. And then it's going to set whatever the user types in to user word. It's going to set the vowel count to 0. And it's going to set the vowels only word to nothing. It is empty. Then it says, okay, if letter 1 of whatever the user types in is equal to A, or E, or I, or O, etc., if that happens, I want to change my vowel count by 1. Vowel count's at 0. If it finds a vowel in that first letter of the user word, it's going to add 1 to our vowel count. The next thing it's going to do is we want to grab a we want to grab a set block, and we want to set our vowels only word. And what we want to do is I'm going to come over to operators and I'm going to grab a join block. And a join block, this is actually, it's basically going to take two things, normally what are referred to as strings in programming. And a string is really just, you can think of it as like a string of text. Or words, or sentences, things like that. It can also be numbers, but a string is not really, it won't recognize it as a number. It's really just things that are going to be displayed on the screen. So, for example, I'll just do this really quick just to demonstrate. So if I grab a say block really quickly, and I drop this join block into it, and see how I double click, it's going to say apple and banana at the same time. And you'll notice there's actually a space right after the E here. So if I delete that space and I have the sprite say the word, these two strings or words are stuck together. So what this block does is it actually connects two strings. And the word we have for that is called concatenation. Concatenation. And you can think of it like sort of like addition of words, but obviously there's no math being done. We're just sticking stuff together. So what I want to do is I'm going to drop my join block into my vowels only word. because I want to join what is currently in this variable, which as you can see right here, it's empty. So I'm going to go to variables, grab vowels only word. I want to join whatever is in this current variable with whatever letter my if statement finds. So it's either going to find an A, an E, an I, an O, a U, or a Y. Whatever it finds, I want it to stick together with what is currently in vowels only. So the way I do that is I'm going to go back to operators, and I'm going to say letter 1 of the user word. Because letter 1 of the user word is what it's checking up here, and it only does this if the letter is a vowel. So let's test this out real quick, see if it works. So I'm going to click the green flag. Please enter a word. I'll say apple just because I know that first letter is going to be a vowel. When I hit return, if you look up here, you'll see that the user word was apple. The vowel count is 1. And the vowels only word is A. So it stored the letter A into vowels only. But you'll notice that it stopped. And it stopped because we're only looking at letter 1 of the word. So how do we get our program to look at every letter in the word? Well, what we need to do is we need to go through each letter. So if I typed in the word apple, we need to check letter 1 of the word, then letter 2, then letter 3, then 4, and then 5. Here's how we do that. And this is another very important structure in computer science. It's called iteration. And iteration just means to essentially repeat something and repeat and advance through something. So we want to iterate through the word apple to find the remaining variable or vowels. So here's how we do that. So what I want to do is come over to control, and I am going to grab a repeat block. And a repeat block, this is also known in sort of regular programming as a loop. And for this particular loop, it's called a for loop because we want it to loop for a specific number of times. We want it to loop for I'll just say a certain number of times. A certain number of times. We want it to loop a certain number of times. And, well, how do I know? I guess the question is, how do I know how many times to go through a word, right? I know if I type in the word apple, I want to go through it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times because there's 5 letters in the word apple, but I don't know what the user is going to type in, right? The user could type in, anything like shoe. That has 4 letters. I don't know how, the length of the word that the user's typing in. So the way I can create my loop to work with any word that the user types in is I'm going to go over to operators category, and you'll see a little bubble here that says length of. And I want to say, well, I want it to loop the length of the user word. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So I'm going to grab a look block, grab a say, drop my length of user word. If I double click this, you'll see that it says 5. There are 5 letters in the word apple. So I'm going to grab this length of user word and I'm going to drop it into the repeat. So as of right now, my program, just just move that a little bit. So at the moment, my program, as soon as it does this stuff up here, it's going to check if the first letter of my word is a vowel. If it is, it'll update my vowel count. It'll add 1 to the vowel count. And it will also set my vowels only word variable with whatever letter is a vowel. And then this is going to repeat the length of the user word. So let's see what happens if I run this. Welcome, this is a letter program. Please enter a word. I'll type in apple again. Interesting. So right here, the user word is apple. The vowel count, it says that there's 5 vowels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it recorded A 5 times. Interesting. It didn't go through the other letters. Well, the reason it didn't go through the other letters is because it just checked letter 1 of the user word 5 times. That's why I've got 5 A's here. So I guess how do I get my program to iterate through each letter of the word? And the way I do that is I actually need to create one more variable. And I'm going to put that variable, let's see, I'll put it right after user word. And this is called a count variable. I'm going to call it count. And we can also call this, I'll set count to, actually I'll leave that there for a second. We can also call this, went all the way over there. We can call a count variable. It's also known as a loop control variable. And it's called that because it controls how the loop, I guess it controls how the loop works, essentially. A loop control variable. And it's currently at 0. Here's the thing though. I know I want to start with letter 1. So I actually want to start my count at 1 because I want to check letter 1 of my word. And instead of saying letter 1 here, I'm actually going to come over to variables, grab the count variable, and I'm going to stick it right there. And again, I need to do this with each of my conditions. And I should have mentioned actually, these right here, these are called, oh, I've already got a comment there, don't I? So these Booleans, these are also conditions in my program. So I'll call these conditions. And the conditions are sort of if something occurs, something else will occur. Right? So these are conditions. And the condition is if the letter is a vowel, then it does something. If it's not a vowel, it does something else. These are conditions, which I forgot to mention earlier. So I'm going to drop my count into each of these. Okay, so I currently have my count variable in there. Let's try this one more time and see what happens. Welcome, and actually I'm going to move my cat over so he's not blocking all my variables there. Please enter a word. We'll type in apple again. Darn, so it did the exact same thing again, and you'll see that count is still at 1. That's weird. Okay, well here's what I want to do. I want to keep, or actually every time that my loop runs, I want it to add 1 to my count variable so that I can now check the second letter in my word. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to put a change count by 1 block, and you'll notice that I put it outside of my if statement. Because if I put it inside the if statement, the count variable would only change if the program finds a vowel. And we want it to change no matter what. So I'm going to put it outside of the if statement. Let's see what happens here. All right, we'll type in apple again. Interesting. So now I am seeing two A's here. Well, that's really strange because there's not two A's in the word apple. So why is it doing that? Good question. Let's check it out. You'll notice right here that I've not updated this part right here with the count. So it's still, again, just checking that very first letter. So I'm going to duplicate one more time, drop it in there. Let's try this again. Let's see what happens. Type in apple and take a look there. We've got our vowel count. There's two vowels in the word apple, A and E. So it skipped the P. The P is in the L and it just added the E. That is pretty cool. Pretty cool so far. So now let's take a look here. What should be the next step that we do? Oh, and there's actually one other thing I wanted to look at. So you'll see here that the count says 6, but there's only 5 letters in the word apple. Well, if you remember, we actually started the count at 1. So if it's already at 1 and our program loops or repeats the length of the word, which apple has 5 letters, so it repeats 5 times, but it's already starting at 6. So you should see a count with 1 more than the length of your word. So that's just maybe if you're wondering about why that's 6 and not 5, that is why. Okay, so let me look back here at our challenge. Let's see. So we were able to figure out the number of vowels and the number of consonants. Sorry, no, not consonants. We're able to figure out the number of vowels, and we can display the word with just vowels. So far, so good. However, I still need to figure out the consonants.